Bihari Gopi Jana Bhalava Giri Varadhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jai Om Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Tattva Shri Shri Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Grantara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Good morning everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning Bhagavatam class. We kind of forget what day it is. We do the same thing every day. It's kind of like Mahotsa Prabhu was mentioning how he knows it's the weekend when he sees Ananda sitting in the Bhagavatam class. He's here. He's just doing Pujari service. So continuing on our reading of Preaching is the Essence. This is from the Bhagavatam 2.8.21. Performing daily rituals of devotional service is not enough. One must preach, and in such preaching not be concerned for success or failure. The favorable conditions for discharging devotional service are that one should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. The Lord, in his form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted the cult devotional service to be preached all over the world and every nook and corner, and therefore a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily rituals of devotional service, but in trying to preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. If he is not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee because he is a soldier in the field. Preaching the cult of devotional service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. A devotee should see A devotee should see to the right discharge of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and should not stick only to the formalities. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one should see how much service is being executed, and not simply in the matter of rituals. So performing daily rituals of devotional service is not enough. One must preach, and in such preaching not be concerned for success or failure. So we saw this in the person of Srila Prabhupada, how in the beginning, when he was in Delhi, he tried starting the movement there, tried starting something. Even though nothing was happening, still he continued on with his duty. And this is actually a sign of real love, where we're not, in the discharge of devotional service, we're not expecting anything in return, but we're just doing it out of trying to satisfy the order of our spiritual master, and to try to satisfy the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in our going out every day, this is something I always, a question I always have in my own heart is kind of like, we're going out there every single day, and every single day we're meeting so many people, but it's like, sometimes materially speaking, it's like, okay, but nothing's really happening. It's kind of like, okay, so many people we're getting to chant, so many books are going out, but what's actually happening? But ultimately, it's imperceptible, the benefits, and we can see that we're becoming purified, and the atmosphere to some extent is becoming purified day by day. Like Prabhupada said, drops a day wear the stone away. So every performance of Sankirtan, every book that goes out is having some effect, even though we might not be able to perceive it. Even if in our lifetime we don't see the effects of all the preaching that we're doing, still it is a success, because devotional service is eternally beneficial. So everything that we're doing, ultimately, if we don't see anything happening on the outside, it's purifying our own hearts. In my spiritual master's book, he writes, one of the mantras he writes is, I save one soul at a time, beginning with myself. So it's kind of like, if someone's, like say you're at a pool or something and someone's drowning, and if you didn't know how to swim, what good would you do jumping into the water? Then there's just two people drowning instead of one. But if you actually knew how to swim, you had taught yourself how to swim, then you can jump in and save that person, pull them out. So that's why we learn how to swim ourselves, and then when we go out, we can attempt to be an instrument. Okay, so and now we'll go on to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Actually, we're still reading the introduction. So these are the introduction to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which was a pamphlet actually that was put together by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the life and precepts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's kind of a sketch of Lord Chaitanya's life. So the last thing we read was, after that everyone at Varanasi was overwhelmed with the transcendental Sankirtan movement. While the Lord was camping at Varanasi, Sananta Goswami also arrived after retiring from office. He was formerly one of the state ministers in the government of Bengal. Then, under the regime of Nawab Hussain Shah, he had some difficulty in getting relief from the state service, for the Nawab was reluctant to let him leave. Nonetheless, he came to Varanasi, and the Lord taught him the principles of devotional service. He taught him about the constitutional position of the living being, the cause of his bondage under material conditions, his eternal relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his expansions in different plenary portions of incarnations, his control of different parts of the universe, the nature of his transcendental abode, devotional activities, their different stages of development, the rules and regulations for achieving the gradual stages of spiritual perfection, the symptoms of different the symptoms of different incarnations in different ages, and how to detect them with reference to context of revealed scriptures. The Lord's teachings, says Sanatana Goswami, form a big chapter in the text of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and to explain the whole teachings in minute detail will require a volume in itself. These are treated in detail in our book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Okay. Right there for next. Today's verse. One, two, 12.
What is it?
Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tat Shradhana Munaya Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Cha Atmanam Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya Tatshradhanana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanyatmani Chatmanam Bhakta Sutta Grihityaya Tatshadadhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanyatmani Chatmanam Bhakta Sutta Grihitaya. Please repeat.
Shraddhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya
Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pasyantyatmani Chatmanam
Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya
Bhakta Sutta Grihitaya Tatshradhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pasyantyatmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya Tatshradhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Chatmanam Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya Tatshradhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Chatmanam Shradhana, seriously inquisitive. Munaya, sages, jnana, knowledge, vairagya, detachment, yuktaya, well equipped with, pashyanti, see, atmani, within himself, cha, and atmanam, the Paramatma, bhaktya, in devotional service, Shrutta, the Vedas, grihitaya, well received. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. Purport. The absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead, who is the full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman in his transcendental bodily effulgence, and Paramatma in his partial representation. As such, Brahman or Paramatma realization of the absolute truth is but a partial realization. There are 4 different types of human beings: the karmis, the jnanis, the yogis, and the devotees. The karmis are materialistic, whereas the other 3 are transcendental. The first class transcendentalists are the devotees who have realized the Supreme Person. The second class transcendentalists are those who have partially realized the plenary portion of the absolute person. And the third class transcendentalists are those who have barely realized the spiritual focus of the absolute person. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association. We have already discussed the point that devotional service is followed by knowledge and detachment from material association. As Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth, so the means of realizing Brahman and Paramatma, that pass Jnana and Yoga, are also imperfect means of realizing the absolute truth. Devotional service, which is based on the foreground of full knowledge combined with detachment from material association, and which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Sutri, is the only perfect method by which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. Devotional service is not, therefore, meant for the less intelligent class of transcendentalists. There are 3 classes of devotees, namely first, second, and third class. The third class devotees, or neophytes, who have no knowledge and are not detached from material association, but who are simply attracted by the preliminary process of worshiping the deity in the temple, are called material devotees. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotional service to the second class devotional position. In the second class position, the devotee can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of Godhead, his devotees, the ignorant and the envious. One has to raise himself at least to the stage of a second class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. The third class devotee therefore has to receive the instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavat. The number 1 Bhagavat is the established personality of devotee, and the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. The third class devotee therefore has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. Such a personality of devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. Such a devotee must be a representative of Sukadeva Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional service for the all-around benefit of all people. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from the authorities. Such a neophyte devotee makes a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy his senses. This sort of hearing and chanting has spoiled the whole thing. So one should be very careful about the faulty process. The holy messages of Godhead, as inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, are undoubtedly transcendental subjects. But even though they are so, such transcendental matters are not to be received from the professional man who spoils them, as a serpent spoils milk simply by the touch of his tongue. A sincere devotee must, therefore, be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and the other literatures left by the previous authorities or Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless, and therefore a sort of disturbance on the path of devotional service. Unless, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Pancharata authorities, the make show of devotional service should at once be rejected. An unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee. By assimilation of such messages from the Vedic literatures, one can see the all-pervading, localized aspect of the personality of Godhead within his own self constantly. This is called samadhi. There's beautiful prayers glorifying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by Srila Sanatana Goswami, the Sri Krishna Lila Stava. I'll just recite them before continuing. Sarva Shastri Vipulyasya Sarva Vedhaka Satphala Sarva Siddhantaratnaya Sarva Lokaika Dripada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabhu Kali Dhvanta Tidhatyatya Shri Krishna Parvivartitha. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, you are the most prominent transcendental fruit of the Vedas and are enriched with the jewels of all philosophical conclusions. You grant spiritual vision to all people of the world and are the very life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Actually, you are Lord Krishna, who has returned among us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Bhakshaksharashate Sarvada Sarvasevaya Shri Krishnaya Namostame. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By your recitation one attains transcendental bliss, because your syllables shower down pure love of God. You are to be served by everyone always, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Mahareka Bandhamat-sangit Maguru Manmanadhana Manyastara Kamabhagya Marananta Namostate. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O my only friend, my companion, and my teacher, O my great wealth and deliverer, O my good fortune and bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tuthayin hati no chitara kara nacha hacha munya katimam prematrit kantaya spura. O Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Accompanied by pure love of Krishna, please manifest yourself in my heart and throat. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sargajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Savetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangunangayate girim ya kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru Niratharanam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vinata Swami Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauramani Prasarine Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. So before I speak today, I'd like to ask for blessings of all the devotees present, especially His Grace Bhagavatam Prabhu and Grace Leela Manjari Mataji. So today's verse, again, the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Sutri. So the Prabhupada starts off his purport by touching on this point again about the how the Lord is realized in different aspects. We were hearing yesterday how it's kind of like a mountain. When your first realization of the absolute truth is Brahman realization. It's kind of just all the effulgent light. It's kind of like when you're looking at a mountain, you can see the outline of it, but you can't see actually the details that are there. As you get closer, second level realization is Paramatma. And then you start seeing there's trees and there's bushes and kind of like that, but still it's kind of not so clear conception of what's there. But once you actually get on the mountain itself, then you have Bhagavan, full realization. You can see the little animals and the creatures and everything that is there in the mountain. Now you understand all parts of the mountain. Just by being on the mountain itself, all three levels of realization are there. And Prabhupada continues, and he goes on making the point that there's 4 different types of human beings: the karmis, jnanis, yogis, and the devotees. The karmis are materialistic, whereas the other 3 are transcendental. So the jnanis, by their you can say their knowledge, they can come to this point of Brahman realization, understanding that there is absolute truth, but they don't understand anything beyond that. The yogis, we hear Prabhupada mention many times, they can come to the point of meditating on the Paramatma within the heart. And then the devotees are the topmost class of transcendentalists because they start to render devotional service. And when you're talking about devotional service is personal. So when we're rendering devotional service, we're rendering devotional service to Krishna. That's why the devotee is on the topmost level of realization, because he's understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's understanding what to do and how to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Gyan is included. Gyan is included. Brahman realization is included. Paramatma realization is included when you're in the when you come to the platform of becoming a devotee. Prabhupada continues. He says that we've already discussed the point of devotional service followed by Gyan and detachment, so Gyan and Vairagya, and that's actually referring to verse text 7, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Parojita Jnanta Yasu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Ya Ahetukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So these 2 things come automatically, without separate endeavor. And there's actually a verse in the 11th canto, which reminded me of this particular section. It's a very nice verse because it's describing how things happen imperceptibly, meaning that just by engaging this one activity, these other 2 things are accomplished. So by engaging in devotional service, Gyan and Vairagya are automatically accomplished, and it's described here in verse 11:242 says, devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three things occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way as pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So you don't have to think about, you feel like you're hungry, you feel the hunger. But then once you start eating, you don't have to think about, okay, my hunger is going away, I'm becoming nourished, and my hunger is going away, I'm becoming nourished, and you're feeling pleasure. These things happen automatically. You don't have to separately endeavor for them. Then Prabhupada continues in his purport, and he starts talking about the three classes of devotees. So he mentions how there's the neophyte devotees, first, second, and third class. Neophyte devotees are the devotees on the lowest platform of devotional service, where they see only the deity. They engage in deity worship, but then they don't know how to properly engage with the devotees of the Lord, the devotees. And Prabhupada has mentioned that we should not just stay on this platform. Actually, in the Nectar of Instruction, he says that we shouldn't remain on the level of Kanishta Adhikari. He says that we should try to advance to the second platform, and this process that Prabhupada has given us, his book distribution, this Harinam, automatically brings us to that second level, because then we're going out, engaging with people. And it's described that the Madhyama Adhikari, the devotee on the second platform, knows how to properly engage with the devotees. He makes friends with the devotees on an equal level. He's merciful to the innocent. So when we're out there, where anybody we're engaging with, we're like, hey, how you doing? Hey, look, yes, this is for you. Here, take this knowledge. Please take it. And then we take our time to explain to them what the book is and how they can move forward. How can they engage in devotional service? And then it says that he knows also how to. The devotee in the second class also knows how to properly not engage with the envious. Also, so this is another aspect of, we have to have some discrimination when we're on the second platform. There is discrimination where we can see, okay, there's this class of devotee, this class of devotee, and that class of devotee, or this type of person, that type of person. And with the envious, we avoid them. We avoid the envious, but Jiva Goswami actually says that we pray for them. So even though we might have these people that are antagonistic coming, at us saying all types of things. I know Chanchal had an experience a couple of days ago, right, in Grand Central. Some lady came by and was saying all types of things, you Hare Krishna, this and that. But then what we do, fold our hands, and this is what Jiva Goswami suggests, don't engage with them. And then you pray for them. Please, my dear Lord, help her in some way come closer to devotional service. And the reason why we don't engage with the envious persons is because then it will make them commit more offenses, and thereby putting them even further away from coming to the point of being able to engage in devotional service. So we're out there trying to give people a chance. Prabhupada said that these temples that we're building, they're actually being built to give people a chance to hear, and that's the point that is coming up to next. So Prabhupada, after stating the points of the three devotees, devotees on the three different classes, he states Uttama, the devotee on the top class, is described that he is seeing everyone as a servant of Krishna, but himself. So that's why actually the devotees on the topmost level, they usually come down to the second level to be able to preach. Because if they're just on that top level thinking everyone's a devotee of Krishna, then they think there's nothing to do. Oh, they're all devotees of Krishna already, so there's nothing to do, So out of his mercy, he comes down to the second level to be able to then properly distinguish, okay, this person needs this person needs this. We leave that person alone. And then it goes on. Prabhupada says, He's talking about the personality of the devotee is not a professional man who earns a livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. Such a devotee must be a representative of Sukadeva Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional life for the all-around benefit of all people. And in connection to this verse, there's a nice verse in the 8th canto that was recited by Lord Shiva. See if it's in here. It's 8:739. I'll bring it up. With Lord Shiva, this is in regard to there's a pastime that took place, the churning of the ocean of milk. And there was this is actually a collaborative effort between the demigods and the demons. We usually don't see the demigods and demons cooperate. But at this time they were cooperating because they wanted to churn this ocean to get the nectar, this amrita. They were looking for this nectar of immortality. So they were working together to try to get this nectar, and their plan, the so-called plan, was to be able to share it, and they were going to share the nectar. But what happens is, by the churning process, some side effects were produced. One side effect was there was some poison being produced out of the ocean. And so Lord Shiva was contacted to come and drink the poison out of the ocean. And in that section, he recites a verse that pretty much sums up the life of a devotee in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement who goes out to preach. He says people in general, and this is, we go out to engage the public. He says people in general, being bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always engaged in animosity towards one another. So the people we're meeting out there, they're all envious of one another. They're envious of one another because they want to be the center. So when you're in the center, you don't see who the actual center is. I was reading in the Krishna book, in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Brahma steals the calves and the cowherd boys, when they were sitting down having lunch with Krishna, it's described very specifically how Krishna was in the center. So all the devotees were satisfied by having Krishna in the center, and that's the whole point of our lives. We're meant to center our lives around Krishna, center our lives around hearing and chanting. When Krishna is in the center, when we put Krishna in the center, then we actually understand who the center is. Then we can actually start to see Krishna everywhere. But if we're letting this disease of envy of Krishna come in, then we'll put ourselves in the center, and we'll say, "Oh, how come this devotee didn't do this thing, which now is impeding my sense gratification?" Or I want this thing to be done this way, and but we should be acting for Krishna's pleasure. But then he says, but devotees, even at the risk of their own temporary lives, try to save them. So Lord Shiva drank this poison, and it's called Nilakant, because actually the poison was, it said it remained in his throat, changed his throat to the color blue. So Lord Shiva has a blue throat, because they're drinking the poison in the ocean. So similarly, when we go out, we're in one sense, we're also clearing the poison from the Kali Yuga. We're going out purifying the atmosphere. When we go out and chant, it's purifying the atmosphere, and we're taking so many opposing elements, cleansing. Actually, it's described that the holy places are purified by the devotees who go there. Because when simple people come to the holy places, actually they dump their sins in the holy places. So the holy places are relieved when pure devotees come there, because they purify the holy places. And they remove the sins. And then that devotees don't make a profession out of reciting Bhagavatam. So it's not so much prominent here in New York. We don't really see so many signs of people reciting Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Shapta, and But in India, it's very everywhere you'll see, these big pundits and big billboards of people that are holding Bhagavatam recitations. And Prabhupada's describing here that they spoil. He said that transcendental matters are not meant to be received from professional men who spoil them as a serpent spoils milk simply by the touch of his tongue. So these people, they spoil the Bhagavatam because they're not devotees. So only a devotee can present Krishna as he is. A devotee can present Krishna as he is because he's understanding that Krishna is actually a person and that he wants to render service unto Krishna, whereas a professional Bhagavatam reciter is he's just not caring about who Krishna is or what he is. He's caring about his own sense gratification and maintaining his family and so he's just using Krishna for his own personal motivation. So when we hear that vibration infused with that kind of mentality behind it, it actually has an effect also on the person's hearing. That's why Srila Prabhupada was very intent on explaining to us to be careful where we hear from, and he gave us this daily Bhagavatam program to hear from his Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Nitya Bhagavatam Sevaya, to hear from the Bhagavatam daily from an authorized source. So we're very fortunate Srila Prabhupada has given us his purports. So we're directly hearing from Prabhupada every day when we come in contact with his purports. And then he continues on. He says, a sincere devotee must therefore be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literatures left by the previous authorities or Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. So we're meant to take advantage of these books left by Srila Prabhupada. When we hear from them, we can know what proper steps to take. It's also described that a lesser devotee or a neophyte devotee, one of the loving exchanges is that we hear from a devotee in a higher stage. So we continue to go on here. It says, an unauthorized devotee should never devotional service established without hearing the following instructions. Show devotional service. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing the following instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless, and therefore a disturbance in the path of devotional service. So before, Prabhupada was mentioning here, sincere devotee therefore must be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads and other literatures left by the previous authorities or Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. So we approach authorized persons in the line in order to hear properly. Srila Prabhupada has left us his books so we can hear properly from him and from his representatives. And when we do that, and then we can slowly make progress, like in the Brahma Samhita, actually, is described one verse. This is actually one of my favorite verses. It's described, it's giving us how we progress in devotional service. And it's also giving us encouragement because it's describing how the highest devotion is attained in slow degrees. So it's not like, we walk in, the first day and we'll become a pure devotee just like that. No, it takes some time. It takes determination, it takes patience. So in this verse, the 59th verse of the Brahma Samhita says, the highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization, with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. And the purport, this is by His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. He says, evidence, the devotional scriptures, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Gita, etc., theistic conduct, the conduct of pious persons, sadhus who are pure devotees, and the conduct of those pious persons who practice devotional service to to Godhead, actuated by spontaneous love. Practice means to learn about the 10 basic principles from the Shastras and on receiving the name of Hari as laid down in the same, embodying the name, form, quality, and activity of the divinity. To practice the chanting of the name by serving him day and night. By this, we are meant to study of the Shastras in association with the sadhus. So this is an important point. By this are meant study of the Shastras and association of the sadhus. So we're meant to look at these books, associate also with devotees of the Lord, who can give us the proper understanding of the knowledge that we're receiving in the books. The tenfold offense of the holy name ceases by serving the name of Hari and simultaneously practice pious conduct. Practice is no other than following in the mode of service of the name practiced by the sadhus without offense. Practicing in the mode of service, or you could say mood of service of the sadhus. So it's Mahajano Yena Katasa Panta. So following in the footsteps of the great devotees. That's why one important thing about sadhu sangha is that when we're associated with devotees who are more advanced than ourselves, we can see how they conduct themselves, how they organize their lives, how they're seriously performing hearing and chanting. For example, for me, I know it's very valuable when I'm with my spiritual master. I just see he takes every single moment to just engage his time in devotional service. We were, like if I pick him up from the airport, he'll pull out the Bhagavatam, start reading Bhagavatam the whole cab ride home. Or if he has a couple of minutes or something, he'll say, let's chant a chapter of Gita, something like that. And then also by following the instructions of these great personalities is how we make advancement. What is it? Yasya prasara bhagava prasara yasya prasaram nagati gutopi. By pleasing the servant of the Lord, automatically Krishna is pleased. So just recently I found out my spiritual master was going to be nearby, in a state nearby, giving class, some series of classes. And so I thought, I like to go. And I was approached by one devotee and said, I'm going to go see your spiritual master. Would you like to come? And so I'm thinking, of course, I want to go. But then I'm thinking also, it's the marathon. So what do I do? So I was thinking he'll probably be more pleased if I stay here distributing books. So I wrote to him. And he said, yes. He said, stay in New York distributing books. So, sometimes even though our mind might be thinking, okay, maybe I do it like this, do it like that, but no, but we should act in such a way that's much pleasing to the devotees, because in that way Krishna will be pleased. I could have just went and showed up and could have been like, what are you doing here? You want to do something. It's like there was this one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Jayananda, who Prabhupada very, very much valued. And this disciple of Srila Prabhupada, actually Prabhupada made his disappearance day an actual one that's observed. So the day he left his body, Prabhupada wanted that recognized as an auspicious day. Usually the departure day of the Vaishnavas is something very auspicious. Inauspicious and auspicious at the same time. We can remember the Vaishnava. And Jayananda Prabhu, he was always engaged in service. Even to the fact where Prabhupada would come somewhere where Jayananda was, but Jayananda wouldn't be sitting in the class. Prabhupada would ask, where's Jayananda? Oh, Prabhupada, he's doing service somewhere. So Prabhupada was thinking, where is Jayananda? How come he's, but he was always fixed on service. Where that means our spiritual body is being awakened. That's our Sat Chit Ananda, so that knowledge is coming automatically. And that Sat Chit Ananda, and that bliss. So your question was detachment. Yeah, so you become detached from the material world automatically, and knowledge comes automatically as the more and more you engage in the process, because ultimately that is a test of our sincerity, that we're engaging in the process. In it of itself is showing our sincerity. because we're engaged as, like here, we're engaged as menial servants. We're sweeping the floor, and you could be somebody in society, but here we're doing minimal things. We're being it's like we're accepting to be a menial servant. So that shows our sincerity. By you going on year after year, that's showing your sincerity. By engaging in the process, that's showing your sincerity. So the inquisitive come, the questions, the questions to advance come as we perform devotional service, as we read the books. Then we'll know what to ask, because we'll read something in Prabhupada's purport, or we'll hear a lecture, something in Prabhupada, something that our spiritual master Prabhupada says, and then we know what to ask if we're hearing properly. So, is that okay? Anyone else?
Can you, thank you very much for your class. Can you touch a little bit more on the what Prabhupada means by professional? Because like you said, we don't really experience what a professional Bhagavatam is or may be in New York City, for example. Although there are Hindu temples, I guess, they probably do have that kind of thing going on. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, another thing you can. Yeah, so people can be utilizing, like another you could say another way you can see this is also, I guess, besides the business of Bhagavatam, there's areas where they're charging to do kirtan.
Maybe they're not like meaningfully charging, but they're attached to doing the show, so then they have to get some kind of
they have to get some their wage package, you can say. So this is also.
But we don't see like professional reciters. Like we don't really. In India you see it, but here you don't see it. So, like for those,
I guess
for
here
those that haven't been to India, they don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I guess here it's a little maybe a little more hidden, a little more covered over, where it will be these professional kirtaniers. And there are, you can, like I remember for myself, I was when I was first coming around, I was listening to all these different like chanting, just like on an app. Like I had this app Pandora, and there was all these different chanters like Ma this and and I showed Atmanivedanam one day, and he's like that's bogus. These people chanting like Om, Shalom, stuff like that. And these are professional kirtaniers, you can say. They're getting paid or they're doing it for money. And so hearing these chants, actually, they don't have benefit. They might actually increase your material desires and increase your attachment to this material world, or even it's just like. You don't get a correct conception of, maybe you'll just continue on thinking that the absolute truth is a oneness, it's a light. So that's the danger of hearing from, say, professionals or not from the right source.
Like for professional Bhagavatam reciters, I might have gone to a few in Vrindavan, and they're not speaking English, they're speaking in Hindi, so I didn't really catch everything that they were saying, but they have a large following and some kind of benefits. I mean, because it's also done in Vrindavan, but like Prabhupada said that New Vrindavan is better than Old Vrindavan because in New Vrindavan there's no Mayavadis. Prabhupada said, but of course, Prabhupada, he considered Vrindavan his home, and he could have died anywhere in the world, but he went back to Vrindavan to leave his planet. So therefore Vrindavan is praiseworthy. But yeah, so there's professional reciters even in Vrindavan, and I went to hear a few. Actually, the reason why I went was because I was studying Hindi, and my teacher advised me to go and hear. But I didn't really understand because it was in Hindi. But so I guess my point is that yeah, even devotees, we might have some attachment to knowledge, or attachment to Krishna conscious knowledge, and it might not be spiritual. It might be like semi, or like there might be some motive there to get the knowledge, get the information for subtle distinction and praise and like that. So that's some kind of like subtle attachment and not detachment. Because knowledge, it should be that we develop detachment from everything like that. So we have to be careful with acquiring spiritual knowledge, because we might be materially motivated like that, even though we're practicing, bhakti yoga and like that. But yeah, we have to listen to the right source. You mentioned that Prabhupada didn't want his followers, does not want his followers to go here and there to different professional Bhagavatam reciters like that. And so
well, one thing Prabhupada mentions, he also said, you shouldn't read what's the point of reading so many books? Actually, there's a verse that says like that. There's no point in reading so many books that requires, so much knowledge.
right.
What is the use of it? What is the use of it? It's not developing. I mean, ultimately for devotees who are attached to the knowledge aspect of Krishna consciousness, that's in one sense that's okay.
Yeah, for Krishna.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They're becoming they attached to philosophy. That's what they're that's what's, you could say that's what's driving their attachment to Krishna, and that's okay. As long as it doesn't, as long as you don't utilize that for your own, you mentioned the point that people can use it for their own aggrandizement, like, oh, I know so much, and that contamination might be there, but as they engage in the process, it should be clearing up. They're sincerely trying to engage in the process. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he mentioned in the Brahma Samhita that mixed devotional service is mixed with what? It's mixed with pure devotional service. So even though that contamination might be there, they're engaged in devotional service actually under a bona fide spiritual master, then these anarthas they'll get cleared out. So that goes back to the point of being sincere. They might have that, some anarthas might be there, but if they're sincere in their practice, trying to engage and really praying Krishna, okay, if they're seeing it's there and they're admitting it's there, then that can be removed.
Also, because it's the book marathon right now, so I just had a thought that sometimes devotees they use this real neat technique, is that you show the book, and then ask the person to read some, to out loud. Right? So not only do they benefit, you also you're hearing and they're hearing like that.
Yeah.
And otherwise, oh yeah, the book. Somebody sold me this book. Oh, they made me pay money for this book. But if you actually make them read out loud, like 2 or 3 lines from the book, then not only do they benefit, but you also benefit because you're
yeah. Interesting point. You bring that up. I guess I'll just make this point and then we'll finish here because it's already 8:42. Actually, just on Thursday, we were in Grand Central, and maybe a week before that, we had been in Times, Penn Station, and I had stopped these 2 gentlemen, nicely dressed. They were salesmen. They had nice suits, nice cashmere scarves, and everything. And so I showed them Bhagavad Gita, and I showed them the verse, and it talks about how the mind can be your best friend, the mind can be your worst enemy. I showed it to them and I read it out loud to them. And one of the guys just kind of looked at it. He was like, "Yeah, that sounds good, but we're not interested." And then I saw them again a week later in Grand Central. So the guy stopped right at the table and he goes, "Man," he goes, "where's that book?" I go, "Bhagavad Gita?" He goes, "Yeah, man, He goes, "Man, you showed me that thing. I couldn't stop thinking about that." I went home, I was thinking about that.
I was there when you were talking to those guys.
I said, "Man, for a whole week I've been thinking about that line, man." He's like, "I gotta get this book." I was like, you see that knowledge, it went in. It was working on it. I was like, "Man, that's profound." That you just saw that. And then similarly, you mentioned the point of them. You can get them to chant. Like my Guru Maharaj, he mentions how he likes to get everyone to try to chant the Maha Mantra. So it is something we can, try also on our own and see. And he mentioned that the reason why he does it is out of humility. And he gets them to chant because it actually is purifying to him. Because the people, when they're chanting, you just tell them to chant, they're chanting offensively. They're chanting some Namabhas.
Right.
Some Namabhas because they're not. Namabhas means without offense. It's like a shadow of the name, and there's benefit. There's benefit in that chanting. So when we start to engage in the process, we might go to Namaprad. Namaprad means offensive chanting, and so when we hear Namabhas, it's purifying to us. So my Guru Maharaj says he gets the people to chant everyone that he meets because they're just offensively, they're saying, okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. It's benefiting them and it's benefiting ourselves also. So get them to chant the Maha Mantra. Alright, thank you all for your kind attention. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Śrīla Prabhupada ki,